Hello and welcome to Manga Tora 96, and today we have the review One Piece chapter 1008 titled Ashura Doji, Head of the Mount Atama Bandits. I must say that for a chapter where we got the answers on who the Oden from the cliffhanger of the previous chapter is, as well as the fates of both Kanjuro and Orochi, and as the cherry on top we see Kaido's hybrid form. This chapter was good, but nothing amazing, as you would have expected after getting answers for so many questions. It must be said that the identity of the Oden from last chapter and the fates of Kanjuro and Orochi, those answers were as the majority of the fans have speculated in the past. I'm not saying that it is bad, it's good in fact, but you could see those developments come a mile away, so I doubt anyone is shocked by those developments in this chapter, which does take away a little bit from those answers on how predictable they were. As for Kaido's hybrid form, it's meh at best, but let's save that for later and start at the beginning of this week's chapter. On the cover this week we have Robin, who is helping a horse to fly like a Pegasus using her devil fruit powers. I'm not sure how seriously we should take this fan request cover page, but I could actually see Robin being able to make a horse fly temporarily using her devil fruit power now in the story, which is quite a nice strength feat for Robin if we consider that she couldn't keep herself afloat pre-time skip, but now apparently she is strong enough to make a horse fly. Moving on from the cover page to the actual content of this week's chapter, we begin right there where the last chapter ended, with Akazaya samurai can't believe their eyes in seeing Oden, while Oden explains that he got sent into the future using Toki's devil fruit power. Oden then prompts the Akazaya samurai to join him as they got a second chance to finish what they couldn't 20 years ago, on which all the Akazaya samurai with tears in their eyes stand up to gladly follow the lord into battle, well almost all the samurai, as two remain cool-headed and try to wake up the rest from this dreamlike situation. The two who stayed level-headed are Ashura Doji and Raizo among the 9 samurai. Raizo points out what Lady Toki said to them before sending them into the future, and that's that she can't travel into the past, and as Oden definitely died on that fateful day 20 years ago, this Oden before them can't be the real deal. Kinemon with tears in his eyes is in denial of this logical explanation Raizo just gave, which prompts Ashura to punch some sense into their leader. Meanwhile, Oden unsheathes one of his swords in order to attack the Akazaya samurai. After Ashura punches Kinemon back into reality, he tries to attack the Oden before him, and he succeeds in cutting Oden's cheek, but there's no blood coming out of the place where Ashura cut Oden, which shocks Ashura for a second, which is enough for the fake Oden to ram his sword through Ashura's body. After the samurai realize they were tricked, they're angry beyond belief, especially Denjiro. If you look on the panel where Denjiro's face is shown, he looks mighty pissed. Denjiro is also the one who connects the dots and identifies the imposter Oden in being a Kanjuro drawing, on which the fake Oden starts to laugh like a maniac. Kiko apologizes to Ashura, who's injured on the floor, for not killing Kanjuro, on which Ashura responds that he doesn't blame Kiko, as even the sharpest sword would get dull if pointed at a friend, which is a quite nice response from Ashura to Kiko in my opinion. Man, Ashura became more likable in this chapter alone than he was in the entire arc so far, in my eyes that is. Denjiro immediately engages in combat with the fake Oden and tries to get the information where Kanjuro's real body is at the time, on which the fake Oden has an interesting response. He says that controlling a drawing remotely is exhausting him, which gives us a limitation on Kanjuro's fruit, because theoretically couldn't Kanjuro just draw an army of drawn soldiers, which would have been a devastating ability, but with this limitation on where it exhausts Kanjuro to control just one drawing limits this fruit potential a lot. Granted, Kanjuro is gravely injured right now, so perhaps in perfect condition he could control more than one drawing, but definitely he couldn't control a whole army of drawings. Kanjuro tells the samurai that he won't survive past this battle, so apparently Kiko's injuries were little but not enough to kill Kanjuro on the spot, but rather slowly, which in a retrospect, when Kiko did cut down Kanjuro, what stopped everyone else of confirming if Kanjuro was really dead, or they could have just cut his head then and there to make it extra sure, but they didn't, and this mess is the result of that. You could say that they didn't want to cut Kanjuro's head because they all still considered him a friend, which is kinda confirmed with what Ashura said to Kiko just now. That's all fair and good, but at least they could have checked if Kanjuro was really dead or not. They definitely had the time for that, but they didn't, and now they have to suffer the consequences of this decision. Something similarly is bound to happen to Perospero, who didn't kill Carrot and Wanda when he had the chance to do, and I look very much forward to when this decision comes to bite him in the ass later. Kanjuro also tells the samurai his last goal before he dies, and that's that he wants to kill Momo and thereby kill the Kozuki clan. There's also Hiyori out there, but a female can't inherit the clan, so by killing Momo, Kanjuro would essentially end the Kozuki family for good. After the Akazaya samurai notice that Momo is in danger, Kanjuro through his Oden drawing uses a page from Pedro's playbook in which he is attempting a suicide bombing in order to kill as many of the samurai as he possibly can. Ashura takes the bullet for the team as he charges the Oden drawing and crashes out of the window with a drawing. Before the explosion, the drawing stabs with both his swords Ashura, and then a pretty big explosion occurs. It's not on the level of Pedro's explosion in Whole Cake, but it's still pretty big nonetheless. After the explosion dies down, we see a part of Ashura's charred body and his sword stuck in the ground, with the other Akazaya samurai watching in shock. Now the $1 million question is Ashura actually dead or not? With the title of this chapter, which is reminiscent of the chapter 878 titled Commander Pedro of the Ming Guardians, with the beating he received from Kaido beforehand, also being stabbed 3 times by the Oden drawing, getting caught up in this big explosion point blank. He also doesn't have the Wheel of P as far as we know it, and seeing a part of his body lying on the floor, I believe that Ashura has left this world and has joined Oden in the afterlife. Now this is One Piece we're talking about, so I can't 100% say that Ashura is dead until this arc finishes, but right now I believe for 90% that he indeed did die right now, and I believe that it's a good way for him to die that way. Would I be surprised if he didn't die? I wouldn't in the least, but I definitely would be disappointed and angry if that were to be the case. So to end this segment, Ashura, I hope that right now you're drinking sake with Oden in the afterlife, and I hope that you won't come back like Pell, Pagaya and Pound, because you don't deserve that kind of treatment. Moving on, after the samurai are in shock for a second, after just what happened, Kinemon flies into rage and makes his way to Kanjuro. Meanwhile we see Kanjuro somewhere in the castle having a blast before his performance comes to an end. The Akazaya samurai don't come far as they intercepted by Jack, who on his way defeated some Minks who tried to stop him from reaching the injured samurai. Then Inuarashi steps up and says to Neko, Raizo and the rest to leave Jack to him, as he personally will deal with the mammoth. The rest of the Akazaya samurai understand the situation and leave this fight to Inuarashi, as they go to Momo's location to protect him. To end this scene, we get a bit of a trash talk between Inuarashi and Jack. Firstly, Jack can't believe that Ino wants to take him one-on-one. Then Ino retorts that they both are gravely injured and that he alone is enough to take Jack down, on which Jack responds that there's no moonlight here now. Ino then shuts Jack up when saying how funny this is, as here also is no poison gas around. The win for trash talking goes to Ino definitely. This Ino vs Jack one-on-one did surprise me, as I believe that both Minks should take care of Jack together for what he did on Zou, but this is also fine. Then we got the reveal that everyone's favorite Shogun is still alive and well. This definitely didn't shock anybody, but it's good to have this confirmation. Orochi along with Fukurokujo are setting fire all over Kaido's mansion in an attempt to burn everything and everyone on Onigashima to ash. We know that Orochi isn't the smartest guy around, so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't consider how to get off of Onigashima, as he did mention that he is aware that Onigashima is currently flying, but is just so angry at Kaido for cutting his set off, and wants to get his revenge that he didn't consider his own safety while executing this plan to burn Onigashima to ash. If nothing else, this brings another ingredient to the chaos that is unfolding on Onigashima right now. We shift briefly to Momo, Yamato's and Shinobu's location. The important things from this scene are that Momo has gone back to his human form. Yamato wants to go to the roof to help Luffy take down Kaido, and the most important thing is that Momo somehow knows how Luffy is doing up on the roof right now. How does Momo know that? I believe that it's something to do with his artificial devil fruit, which got some mention several times in the past chapters. We know that Kaido's DNA was taken in order to create this fruit, so by eating this fruit, Momo has gained some of Kaido's DNA. So what if he also gained some kind of connection with Kaido himself, where he can see the things Kaido sees? This idea is a bit far-fetched, but right now is the most logical answer for me on how Momo knows on how Luffy is doing right now on the roof. Also, as a side note, I don't believe that Momo knowing on what's going on the roof right now is related to observation haki, because not one character has displayed such a feat in this series. The closest one we got is NL, but that was mainly because of his devil fruit power. And for Momo to just casually awaken such a strong observation haki, I don't buy it. So the Momo Kaido connection through Momo's artificial devil fruit sounds the most plausible to me right now. For the last scene of the chapter, we're back on the rooftop, where we see how the 5 supernovas fighting the 2 Yonkos look pretty bloodied and worn out since the last time we saw them. Luffy is the only one who tries something, but gets sent flying right back every time. The 5 agree that they have to separate Kaido and Big Mom somehow, because they have no chance in hell beating 2 Yonkos who fight together. Then we get a great double page spread where we see the 2 Yonkos in all their glory. We finally see Kaido's hybrid form, but for me, Big Mom in that panel looks just so much more imposing and a bigger threat than Kaido. As for Kaido's hybrid form, it's my least favorite form of Kaido that we saw, and as a hybrid, I definitely prefer Ultis and Page 1's hybrid forms over Kaido's. We end this chapter with Luffy and Kaido smiling at each other, ready to go at it again. All in all, this was a good chapter of One Piece. The revelation on who this Oden was, Kanjuro and Orochi's fates were good but predictable. Hopefully Ashura stays dead and doesn't sully this chapter by showing up again. Then Ino vs Jack one-on-one is a pleasant surprise. It will be interesting to see how this plays out. With Momo knowing on what is going on the rooftop, it's definitely the most intriguing part of this chapter. And finally, we're back on the roof where we see Kaido's hybrid form, which isn't anything special. And it seems that we will continue with the struggle of the 5 supernovas against the 2 Yonkos in the next chapter next week. And that will be all for this video. If you like this video, leave a like, leave your thoughts in the comments below, or subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content as well as other manga content, and until next time, take care.